I'm gonna start streaming. This is the part. I'm not gonna do the silence anymore. I usually just kind of like be silent while Facebook's trying to catch up with the stream, but I don't feel like doing that anymore because it takes forever sometimes.
Well, and fuck.
Fuck them. That's right. All right, so oh look, it was almost instant that time. What's going on,
Almost.
guys? Almost. Um, I think we are. You got a duck? What's going on, guys? Um, Live here with JC Cook, the founder of the Wingdings Caucus.
That's me.
And I'm super jealous because he's laying out in a hammock, and I haven't put my hammock up yet in this new place. Otherwise, we'd be having a cool hammock day.
And you'd all be jealous of us.
All of you, but now I'm in the jealous camp.
That's okay. It's a great camp. It's very spacious.
What's going on, man?
Oh, not a lot, man. Just relaxing a little bit before I take the plunge and go work my night shift.
Is
So I
your
figured I'd talk to you guys a little bit.
is your you're gonna take the plunge? Is your night shift? Are you doing some cleansing services of the baños, or what's going on there?
No, it's more of the Bob Seger variety of night moves, you know?
Okay. Um, so let's start out here because inquiring minds want to know what the fuck is the Wingdings Caucus?
Oh man. So to tell you that story, I'm gonna obviously have to tell you this story. I attended my first state convention, LP state convention in Texas this year. And I got to say, it was amazing. I met some wonderful people. Uh, you're all wonderful. Those of you who are watching, anyway. I met some wonderful people, and we got down to business on Sunday. And it seemed like, from my perspective at least, we didn't get a whole lot done up until lunch because people were hung up on branding, important stuff. Um, so we get our lunch break, and I believe it was Clayton Hunt. I'm sure you've heard of him. And Cameron Hernandez. We were walking over to the Chili's, and we were talking about how great that business session had been so far. And I believe someone stated that it was a good thing that we were getting through the important stuff like branding, so that we can move on to the really important stuff like fonts.
All right.
And so I thought, with this tribunal of minds that had sort of formed on the walk to lunch, that we would create the Wingdings Caucus, so that we could get past all of the trivial nonsense or the important stuff. It really depends on your perspective. And, move on to the meat, as they say. So we thought, in keeping, in sort of the theme or the overall feeling of the early part of the business meeting, we wrote the Wingdings petition, as it came to be known, on a children's placemat from Chili's. I don't receive any money from Chili's. Just want to throw that out there. This isn't a plug for them, just stating facts. And we wrote it in crayon, which I thought was really appropriate. And so we set out to gather signatures, and we ended up getting, I believe it was 38 delegates, which was well over the 10% that we needed to have it added to the business.
Yeah, I was one of those. I
Yes,
remember signing that.
You most definitely were one of those, and thank you, by the way, for that.
Absolutely.
So Clayton Hunt and I attempted to present this to the floor, but I think they might have seen it coming. This is, of course, just my opinion as a humble observer. And, well, they shut down business right before we got to the microphone. Wouldn't you know it? So the Wingdings Caucus was formed from there, and we're we're very serious, and you can tell that by the fact that we don't have a Facebook page or a platform. Well, not that you could
So,
read anyway.
all right, let me get into some important questions that I know everyone's dying to ask about this. Um, so first of all, how's your Wingdings handwriting game?
Well, I've got to admit, my Wingdings handwriting game is pretty weak, but I don't worry about that too much in the technological age we find ourselves in currently. Now,
So,
signatures and
well, I mean, like,
such, I
what if
can
you
draw
had
an airplane.
what if you had to write like an emergency petition to take to the floor? Are you gonna have to handwrite that in Wingdings, or would you have to ask for suspension of the rules to submit something in whatever font your hand writes in?
Oh, you did say there were going to be difficult questions. You know, I would probably have to whip out a keyboard, maybe uh, maybe have someone bring a printer. You know, these are the things that we have to think about before we are faced with such a situation. So thank you for bringing that up.
Well,
Um,
I guess that's actually a good point. If all you have to do is read it from a tablet, then that might be sufficient. But that brings up the next question: how well can you read Wingdings?
well, I like to think of myself as an expert, but I like to think of myself as a lot of things.
So can you read it fluently?
Not fluently. It's more. It's like a broken English version,
Okay.
but you know the implications. I picked those out right off the bat.
Well, I guess you got to keep working on that.
Yeah, you know, one step at a time.
Practice.
I'll definitely have something in the works for 2020. I can promise you that.
All right, I can't wait to see that.
Maybe even a Facebook page.
No, don't, because that takes you from being a serious caucus into the shit posting meme type caucus.
That's true. I do want to be respected. Respect is very important to the Wingdings caucus.
Yeah, you got to stay completely away from Facebook, especially after what they did to Alex Jones. We can't take them
Oh my
seriously.
gosh, I heard about that. You know, it's really disgusting. It's disgusting, and here's my reasoning. I love Alex Jones. He has some of the greatest remixes on Placeboing that I have ever seen, and I love them, and I want more of them, and I really feel like YouTube, you know, somebody needs to hold their feet to the fire, figuratively speaking, and figure out what we can do to compromise, because there's just too much content born, you know, from the guttural cry of Alex's daily rants.
Right. Well, this whole thing is going to be interesting because he just released like a 20-minute announcement to, I don't know if you want to call that a rebuttal or whatever of him just coming out and saying, look, it's the Chinese. They're working with the CIA. Apple is now a Chinese-owned company. He came out with all these like crazy claims. The lizard people took over Facebook, and now he's banned, and he saw it coming, and he's been saying it for years. And so he posted this video under, what was it, like the WWE account or something? I think,
WWE Shoot.
what?
So like shoot wrestling interviews, right? So
Okay.
it's beyond, as a former wrestling fan myself. In shoot interviews, you sort of get past the whole kayfabe of it all, the storyline.
All right.
So I thought that was interesting because I have to question what the kayfabe was. If this is an honest plea from outside of the whole rigmarole of the water filtration sales game, I'd like to know. And unfortunately, they've made it harder for Alex to answer these tough questions. And I know he's got the documents on his desk.
Yeah, right.
Put it all together.
Right here. I've got them right here, folks. I'm going to read them to you.
He always does. He's very prepared. Preparedness is strong in the Jones family.
Yeah, he was probably a Boy Scout.
That makes sense.
So what's interesting about this is, so his account's shut down, but he's posting on other accounts. And it's only a matter of time before he starts posting on Pornhub.
Well, I hope so.
um,
Then it'd just be like one-stop scrolling.
yeah, no, and that actually
You have
reminds
to
me,
keep switching back and forth.
I need to create a taxation is theft account on Pornhub and upload all my videos. Because you know, the same videos I'm uploading on YouTube, I'm not talking about switching content to something else. I'm just saying, you know, we need to go where all the traffic is.
You got to go where the market takes you, brother.
Exactly. So and hey, we're you know, sex work is real work. So what better place than to put that than Pornhub, right?
Can I ask you this real quick? Sorry to
Absolutely.
interject. Would you agree to allow someone to post pornographic content on your specific Pornhub uh, page, let's say,
Hmm.
uh, if they were, say, they had a taxation is theft sticker on their booty?
I'm gonna answer that, but first, I just noticed as you stuck your hand up, what's on your wrist, man?
Oh, it's funny. There's this amazing line of products. Taxation is theft. I wear them. You should wear them too.
And where might you
You
get those?
should. I get them from taxationistheft.carts.
That's right. So
I got that right, didn't I?
you did.
I'm a
So
damn
okay,
amazing person.
okay. So this is something I haven't thought of before. So I'm thinking about it before I answer because a lot of politicians like to think they already have the answers prepared, and I'm one to tell you that no, that's something I haven't thought about, and I have to think about this first. I
I
would
thought about
say I would say since there is absolutely nothing wrong with pornography itself, especially, or I don't want to say especially, I want to say only if, you know, everybody's a consenting participant.
it. Of course.
Um, and the fact that that site is obviously that's what people are there for. Um, I I don't think I'd have any objection to putting that type of content on the channel because that's, I mean, that's what people are there for. Now,
Right.
of course, if I was shut down from Facebook and I was using Pornhub as my primary distribution source, that might change things. But at the same time, they're going to link, you know, you might also be interested in, and I'm sure there's going to be other videos that are just complete porn all over the screen. So at the same time, I don't think you could get away from that. So it's not really like I should keep that out of the channel. I I,
I mean,
I don't see any real
I
reason.
picture, and this is just me, but I picture three ways with recitation of the law by Frederick Bastiat. I
I
I would watch more than 5 minutes of that.
I that would be interesting. That would be interesting. Um, of course, you'd have, you know, the connoisseurs saying, "Wait, where did this guy come from in the corner who's reading this book? He wasn't there 2 minutes ago."
Oh, he was there. He just set the camera down.
That might not be a terrible idea, and it's, you know, it's one of those things that, you know, it might be like a ridiculous publicity stunt, but hey, if somebody wants to film that, I'm not going to say I'm going to participate in that, but if somebody else wants to film that and put it up on my Pornhub channel, I don't think I'd object to that because it serves a
Well,
greater
I would
purpose.
never do it, but I
You
would watch it
do,
because I'm more of a consumer.
do, well, there you go. You got to know your place in the market, right?
I'm purebred American.
All right, so um, back to Alex Jones.
Yes.
So what's interesting about all these remixes is those remixes all go up on channels that aren't his, and those channels obviously aren't banned. So as long as he's still distributing his content in some way, and you know, he could put it up on DTube or you know, any of those sites. I don't know if Patreon's banned him, which I keep hearing about Patreon. I've looked into it. I might start putting my content there. Um, there are places, and look, like if you really want to go old school, you can always get, you know, a private server, upload your videos and host them privately there, and you have complete control over it. Nobody can really shut you down unless you know, unless they really go to war with you and they set up a firewall, and then you got to start doing like the WikiLeaks thing and hopping around from international server to international server. But I don't think he's ever gonna get that high on the government shit list.
No, but he should. And Alex, this is a challenge to you. If you're watching this right now, go do something audacious, please.
And so,
Oh, and side note, we wear pink on Wednesdays.
yeah, and I've got no pink. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think my I don't know if I have my pink shirt anymore. I might, but it might be gone. Um, so all that said, I want to say this about Alex Jones, because like as much as I'm like you, I like the ridiculous remix videos um, that are made of him. But I actually had some respect for him back in the day when I think the first video I saw of him was probably like from the 90s. And he went to the DMV. It was just when the Texas DMV started taking fingerprints. They started requiring fingerprints in order to get your driver's license. And so he was in there with his cameras and he was demanding his renewed driver's license, and he absolutely refused to give his fingerprints. Now what's really interesting about this is I saw this video, and this was around the time when I was researching sovereign citizens and rights and government in general, because at that point, all I knew about government was what I had been indoctrinated with in public school, right? So I started learning a lot of this stuff on my own, and it turns out I found a federal law that says no. I haven't read it in at least 10 years, but so I'm going from memory. But it basically says no state organization, institution, no state anything can deprive you of a privilege for refusing to provide a social security number. Now, what that basically means is if you go to the state and say, I want a driver's license, you are not obligated to give them your social security number, and they are not, and they have to give you the same privilege. It's even though traveling is not a privilege, but a driver's license is a privilege because it's issued by a state. And I'm not going to get into not needing a driver's license to drive, but you need, they tell you have to give us your social security number. And what I did, I was living in California, and I was like, hey, I want to get out of the jurisdiction of California. I went to Nevada and said, give me a driver's license. And they said, we need your social security number. And I said, no. And I have the federal law here. And I had it printed out because I was prepared for that. And I showed it to the clerk, and I was real friendly with her. And she's like, oh, wow, that's interesting. I've never really seen that. And she was like, I'm going to have to talk to my manager. And she goes back and forth with her manager a couple times. And she's really like friendly, right? And she comes back and she's like, I don't know. Like, my manager's telling me we have to put your social security number in here. And she asked me, because there's a little exclusion in there that even they know about. If you've never been issued a social security number, then you don't have to provide it. So I could have just lied to them and said I was never issued one, which, as a matter of fact, I wasn't there when this social security number was created. So I don't know if it was issued to me, right?
Right.
So, but whatever, I'm playing their little game, and I say, well, can I talk to your manager? And she comes out, and she is just irate at the fact that I'm and I'm being like super friendly, proven by the fact that even the first clerk that I was talking to was super friendly with me. We were going back and forth. We were having a good conversation. How's the weather? It's nice and sunny out here in Nevada, all this stuff. And the manager came out, and she was just pissed off that I was even questioning her beloved governmental system. And so, like, I was like, Alex Jones is like, he's pretty cool because he really I basically said, okay, fine, they're not going to give it to me. Fuck you guys. I got my car registered there because that didn't require that. But I didn't get the driver's license because I just kind of gave up. But Alex Jones went to jail over refusing to give the information. And I thought that was very respectable. But now I don't even fault him that much for selling water filters because he's got a lot of preppers that watch the show. Okay, fine. And he's got to monetize his show because that's how he gets those beautiful backgrounds, right? As opposed to me with this, like, I just got like a window and some trees back here. We're connected with nature, but it's yeah. So
well, he's got that McAdoo. Ooh, she's bad. Sorry.
So yeah, but then like when he starts, he talks about some credible issues, but at the same time he goes so extreme with them that he makes the arguments uncredible,
I
incredible.
completely agree. No,
So it's
he just, it's like he'll give you a piece and then he winds it out into the stratosphere until it's just completely unidentifiable from the
yeah.
original piece that he started off with.
Next thing
And
you know, it's aliens and lizard people.
every time, I mean, and or gay frogs.
Yeah, it's
And
and yeah, it kind of sucks because he is, and he was pointing out in his rants, his rebuttal to the banning. He was pointing out that he's like in the top 5 or top 10 on a lot of different, whether it's YouTube or iTunes or any of that stuff. Which is, I mean, he's got widespread, whatever you want to call that, distribution.
oh, totally.
It's really amazing what he's done. And there's the question of, if he didn't go so crazy and extreme, would he have gotten the message out there that far?
Oh, exactly. I mean, my God, when he went on The View, that never would have happened if he would have just been a normal, Mark Davis. I
Conspiracy.
don't know if you know who that is. Mark Davis kind of a guy.
No. Um I didn't see him on The View, actually. That was how awesome was that?
Well, let me tell you, those ladies on The View, they had a wild time. He was there to defend Charlie Sheen.
Okay. When he was kind of going nuts.
Yeah, yeah. Charlie was. I think it was after he'd been kicked off of 2.5 Men, something
Yeah.
along those lines.
He was
But
just kind of like ruining his career, doing a lot of drugs and yeah, I don't know.
here, the way I feel about Alex is that I like that he's crazy, and I think he should keep throwing as many crazy accusations. They'll actually talk about it. Politicians will actually talk about it, and if you can get them to talk about anything crazy, have to toss off some accusations, hey, good for you. You got it, Alex.
Yeah.
Keep asking the tough questions.
Yeah, I mean, it is certainly, it's interesting. And I think, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's not something we need to censor. A lot of people are saying, like, yeah, I'm glad he got censored because I hate him. And yeah, uh, I don't know. It's one of those, I guess it's a love-hate relationship in a way.
Oh, I understand. Believe me, I grew up in a small town. I saw the Bohemian Grove tape back in when I was like 11 or 12. I remember Alex, Alex, Alex.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. So, um, man, let's talk about, what do you think about psychedelics?
What do I think about psychedelics? Well, um, I think they deserve their own caucus, but luckily someone thought about that before I did and created the Libertarian Party Psychedelics Caucus, which, hey, if you have any interest in psychedelics whatsoever, you should go out and check it out. It's pretty nifty.
What?
Um,
Yeah, go ahead.
oh, well, the way I see it is, you know, I'm not interested in policing people's behavior. What you do in the privacy of your own home or out in public, unbeknownst to the rest of the public, at a concert or, a gas station, terrifying. That's your own business. And I really don't feel that policing chemicals is going to make us any freer as a society. I think a lot of the appeal of drugs in the first place is the taboo that is placed on them by authority figures. And I personally say it's much better to be compassionate and help people that are struggling than it is to prohibit that struggle and throw them in a cage.
Absolutely. And I think, well, I'll hold that thought. I want to get back to that. First, we have a really interesting comment here from Heather Cash.
Oh, I love her.
She wants to know which shampoo you use to get those beautiful locks.
Oh, these beautiful locks. Well, it's pretty. I'd like to say that I use main entail, but that would be a lie. And I'm not here to lie to you people. Uh, it's pretty much whatever's around. Whatever's around, I'll use it. I like some of that Garnier nonsense. I don't like some of that Garnier nonsense, but between the Garnier nonsense and the perts and the pluses and the this and the that, it all seems to work pretty well.
Are any of them giving you sponsorships for advertising?
None whatsoever. And I'd like to change that. So if any of you are,
If anybody
you
works
know,
for any of those brands,
if
send a
you
bottle
are
this way. You can
movers and
contact us through the
shakers
show.
within the big shampoo industries, please feel free to throw my name out there. Although I have to admit, as long as I've been putting it off, I am about to cut this hair off so that I can donate it to Wigs for Kids. If you have long hair, you should donate it to Wigs for Kids as well. Don't be a dick. Wigs for
And
Kids.
why are you doing this? Because you have an interesting backstory to why you're doing this.
Absolutely. Okay, so my great grandmother was the matriarch of the family, and she was a major part of my life growing up. She's still a major part of my life, and she's not even around anymore. Spoiler alert. She she was diagnosed with a brain tumor. I'm not exactly sure which particular type. I'm not well read on cancer. I just know that it sucks. And I helped to take care of her during that time. She'd done a lot for me, and I figured, what the hell? She was still doing a lot for me, even with the cancer. But before, and it's very debilitating. If you've never dealt with it before, if you have, I'm sorry for you, because it's terrible. But before she lost her ability to speak, she lost her hair, and she was 78 years old. She had a full head of hair, and it was just the first of many, many embarrassments for her. And sorry, just thinking about it, it's terrible.
Yeah. Well, so
But she was something sweet, and so I grow it out, and I donate it in her memory.
that's awesome,
You know,
man. And I want to point this out because the Libertarian Party is known as the party of the second or third political party of rich old white men who care nothing about themselves and not helping the poor or the sick or the homeless or anything. And here we are. You're not. Are you filthy rich? How many yachts do you own?
oh, well, I've run into a bit of a yacht deficit, you see, in my life. But I can tell you, as a relatively poor, middle-aged white gentleman, I grew up doing charity. I totally believe in charity, and if there's anything you can do to uplift somebody around you, you should do it. It doesn't necessarily have to cost anything. What's a smile cost, right? There's my
Right.
cheesy little thing for the day.
Well, what's funny about that is this says a lot about people with signs, because I think, like, I honestly think it's smiling at someone, telling someone have a good day, or um even God bless. Like, as an atheist, I hear that and I'm like, hey, well, that's cool, because it's if you don't believe in a God, this person is basically just wishing you well. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, they're hoping you have a good day.
It's a
Um,
sentiment,
all
positive
this
sentiment. You're lucky to get that from anybody these days.
exactly, and as people kind of like sharing that around, there was this, man, I saw so many interesting things out there. There's this thing in India called laughing yoga, and these guys will get, like, at the beginning of their workday, they'll get together in a huddle and they'll just laugh. They'll force themselves to laugh, and they say, like, that changes, like, the how their day goes. It gets them in a good mood. Like, everything's great. Everything just and so I saw a guy with a sign, and most people are like, hungry, blah blah blah, and it gets everyone like, oh man, like, it gets everyone kind of in a bad mood. Like, you feel bad for the person, and then a lot of people are like, oh, I wonder if he's just a scam artist, all this other stuff. And I saw this guy with a sign that said basically what you just said. I think it said like smile, or, you know, it pretty much just said that. And I think I gave him a 20. Um, and like, it's, you know, if he was out there, if he was really homeless, if he needed it for beer, it didn't really matter, because I was kind of having a shitty day, and that just like put a smile on my face, and that was fucking worth $20.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's, and so here I want to get back to your story. You're being very charitable, and it's not, nobody's putting a gun to your head and forcing you to do it. And the charity that you're giving away is not even something that, you know, it's like, hair is not necessary for survival. It's more of a social thing. It's, you know, you, especially if you're donating to kids who don't have any hair, and they're, you know, they might feel awkward, out of place around other kids who do have hair. Like, it's just one of those things where it's almost like a comfort thing that you're providing, but they're not going to, it's not necessary for their survival, right?
Exactly. No, it's just
So
about, you know, building them up.
yeah,
They're
and
going through hell.
it's like you can do so many great things, and it doesn't have to be through socialism. It doesn't have to
Doesn't
be,
have
yeah,
You don't have to have one gun, one tank, one helicopter. You don't have to have any of it. All you have to have is just a little decency. And I understand, like, the way that society is structured, it's structured to keep you stressed. And as long as you're stressed, you generally have tunnel vision, and it's real easy to forget that there are other people around you and other people in the world. But, you know, voluntary charity is a beautiful thing. And the great thing about voluntary charity is, you know, that 100% of what you're putting into it is going to someone. It's not going to some, you know, guy that makes $225,000 a year, figure I pull out of my ass, you know, off the backs of promising to do things for good, you know, good things for children, good things for victims. I'm talking to you,
right.
Red Cross, you pieces of shit.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
it's and you have the choice to say, like, I think there's, there's two charities that are kind of similar. There's Goodwill and Salvation Army, and I can never remember which one, but one of them, the CEO takes home like a $500,000 a year, and
Absolutely. And
like,
why shouldn't he? He's done so much.
well, and so here's the thing, like, okay, yeah, forget about, okay, the CEO makes a lot of money, fine, let's forget about that. If the business itself is, so let's say, like, I wouldn't have a problem with that if that organization collected, let's say, $100 million, and they gave out $90 million of it. Okay, fine. 10 million goes to the
Absolutely.
company. Yeah, because they're still doing a lot of good. Now, when you collect 100 million and like 2 million goes out, then it's kind of like, what the fuck are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Um,
That's kind of like Clinton Foundation stuff, right?
right. And but here's the thing, like,
How many Haitians does it take to pay for a wedding dress?
so you have to, but here's the thing, like, we have the choice now. We can decide if we're going to give it to this company or this company, and we have the ability to do the research versus, oh, and then there was the Wounded Warrior Foundation, which was like total crap. They were just consuming all the money they were taking. But then, from what I understand, after the public outcry over that, they actually turned into a legit organization and said, okay, we're being pressured. If we want to keep this organization going, we have to continue. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you know anything about that one.
I do not.
I
Head up my ass completely on that one.
From what I hear, that was the story. And their reputation's already damaged, which is incentive for new organizations not to even do that shit in the first place.
Right. That's the way it should be.
But when you're giving money to government, you're giving money to an organization that's going to, because you got the same people in the world, whether they decide to go work for the government or the private sector, they're still going to be the ones that say, hey, we're going to collect $100 million, and we're going to actually put 2 million to good use. And that's what government does. And you don't have any choice to say, well, we're not going to do that. Because
government hates choice.
yeah, they don't, yeah, nobody pays taxes. They take taxes.
That's it. Chris Rock.
Yeah. So anyways, I got off topic there. Let's go back to psychedelics. So you talk about the legality of it. What about, how much do you know about, like, what's his name? Shit, now I can't think of his name. The guy who's like he's all into psychedelics and like the research behind it, but he goes deeper into like human evolution and where intelligence came from and all this other stuff.
Oh wow. Well, are we
Um,
talking like classic, like Terrence McKenna age
that guy,
type?
Terrence McKenna. So he's got a lot of really interesting things to say on on the subject because he's not really even talking about it from a legalization point most of the time, which is where it sucks. This is where we find a lot of our discussions about marijuana, and people keep telling me don't use the word marijuana because that's the anti-Mexican propaganda
That's
word for it.
marijuana's slave name.
Yes,
It's cannabis.
cannabis. I like to call it weed. Sometimes I call it pot because I used to call it pot because I was making fun of old people and how they would say it, and now I just say it like it's normal, and I sound like one of those old people.
Personal preference.
It's
I prefer the term ganja.
I like that one too.
I think it's a beautiful phrase.
It is. I need to get. Its habit is what it is. I need to get back into that. You know what? Sometimes I even call the remote control the clicker just like for the hell of it.
Absolutely. The clicker for the thing.
I know
Get
now
off
that
my lawn.
it doesn't show my age. It shows my grandparents' age because that's where I learned the word from.
That-
Although I did when I was very very young, I did have a remote control that did actually click when you pressed it. So I guess that does show my age a little bit.
I still call clips videos.
Or films,
Yeah.
movies. So okay, Terrence McKenna. So so a lot of times we're always talking about why we should legalize ganja and even though like okay, yeah, people want to smoke it, they're not harming it. You like that, huh? They're not harming anybody, right? We should legalize it. We shouldn't be wasting all this money on the drug war. We shouldn't be throwing people in cages, and we don't. Well, this is all great, and we are changing the world with it. People like countries and people all over the world are starting to like say, okay, yeah, let's legalize this. And we talk about the health benefits like through the medication and everything. We talk about that quite a bit, but nobody really talks about the benefits of just using it, whether it's for enjoyment, whether it's for hallucination, euphoria, or psychedelics, which is more, I guess, towards the mushrooms and LSD, which those are
Right.
even still kind of faux pas to talk about in the legalization movement because
Oh,
those
of
are hard drugs.
Major problem that is created naturally when cows eat grass. It's
Right,
terrible.
right.
Those cow manufacturing plants that they have out there, and they're all around. I could throw a stone from this hammock. I'm a terrible throw, but if I were a good throw and I could throw a stone, it'd probably hit a cow somewhere.
Yep. Well, I mean, you're in Texas, so
Boy, am I.
I. So okay, I think it's like half of the country lives in cities and the other half lives in more rural areas, which is a lot of people in rural areas. But to all the people living in cities, they've never seen an actual cow before, right? In Texas, it was not too unheard of for me to be driving from San Antonio to Austin and see like some cow got off the farm and it's like running like pretty close to
On
the
the
highway.
highway.
Yeah. um it's
That's a bad day for somebody.
yeah, and you got like
Always
five
the
people
cow.
out there. Sometimes there's a guy on a horse. They're trying to make sure this cow doesn't get hit by a car. um another very humanitarian, or I guess animalitarian cause.
Some
Um,
kind of
yeah,
pit bull terrier.
not probably not I, probably not vegetarian, but
No,
that's dinner. Um, but so yeah, so what do you know? And I'm not. I don't know. I don't know how much you know about psychedelics. I don't want to imply um, anything that you haven't admitted to. Uh, but what do you know about psychedelics and their what do you call this? Their less popular talking points. Let's call it that.
oh, okay. Well, there are so many. less popular talking points of psychedelics. But I would have to say that having grown up in the country around lots and lots of pastures, I may or may not know some people that may or may not have spent many, many summers, may or may noting, hopping fences and going out and picking those things right up off of. So I would say my knowledge is fairly, I don't know, I'd call myself, what is it below begin? What is it above beginner in video
Uh,
games?
Novice.
Novice? I would call myself a novice.
Okay.
Novice is probably good. I've read quite a bit of things as well, but I'm not by any means an expert. I'm not a Ken Kesey, who I like much better than Terrence McKenna, because Ken Kesey had a van, and that van was sweet. It was actually a bus. Correct.
Um, so was that like one of those VW buses?
No, it was a big, like a school bus, I think,
Oh wow.
almost like part, or maybe a double decker. I can't really remember. I've watched a couple documentaries about those merry pranksters and such,
I
and
got to get one of those double
I
deckers
know they
for
ended up having hell when they hooked up with the Hell's Angels, but I just know that from watching Hunter Thompson documentaries.
Hunter Thompson was
And man,
another.
I love that guy.
Oh, he's awesome. You
And
know what? I know two
the only
people
person
who.
that could kill Hunter Thompson was himself.
I know two people who actually got to meet Hunter Thompson, and like, yeah. So,
Really?
so I've shaken the hands that have shaken the hands of Hunter Thompson.
So then vicariously, you have shaken the hand of Hunter
Absolutely,
Thompson.
absolutely. And actually,
So
no, wait, I take that back. One of them has shaken the hand. The other one has held the 357. So I have vicariously held the 357 by one. What is it? 1 degree of separation, or is that two?
I'm going to go with one,
It
but
sounds better.
two can be as bad as one because it's the loneliest number since the number one. So that's the thing you know now.
So, okay, so psychedelics. Um, okay, here's a quote, and I think this was Terrence McKenna that said, "If the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness does not include the right to, what did he say? To experiment and travel through your own mind, then it's not worth the hemp that it's written on."
I love it.
Yeah, it was awesome, and it's so true. Like, so okay, I went through. I used to be a seminar junkie, right? So I've gone to like a lot of these. Most seminars are either get rich quick or self improvement, right? And or a cult. And what a lot of these people focus on is, and what I found really interesting is unprogramming yourself from public education, which really ties into the whole libertarian thing, which might have been, kind of how I got here. But I think that's all really interesting. And they never really talked about psychedelics, but they do talk about kind of like that inner journey of figuring out who you are and how you became who you are. Kind of like, I guess the stuff you'd talk to your shrink about when you have like a problem that you're trying to fix. Except this is not when you have a problem that you're trying to fix, just when you're trying to understand who you are. And I know some people who use psychedelics in that way. Like, they use them to kind of self-analyze and see who they are and where they are in life and how they got there and what they want to change the direction of their life. Because the reality is, we're here because you and I are sitting right here because of all the decisions that we've made in the past. And yes, there are, the environment has changed around us and causing us to make those decisions, but we made decisions which got us here to this point.
Pardon me.
And if we don't understand that we're making decisions that got us here, then we're not going to understand that we're making decisions. Like tomorrow, we're going to make decisions that are going to determine where we are next week or next year, right? And if we can't start looking at those decisions as cause and effect, then we're kind of doomed to just continue our programming. It's kind of like, they say those who don't study history are doomed to repeat it. And when you kind
Absolutely.
of like analyze yourself and your decisions that you've made, it's kind of like that. You're studying the history of yourself in order to make a brighter future for yourself.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, you have to remember that, well, or at least you have to know to remember uh, that it was through testing with psychedelics that they were able to prove that the subconscious exists within the mind, which was a huge breakthrough. Huge. With
Interesting.
an H.
And so the subconscious is interesting. And if you've ever been on autopilot, you've been on autopilot. You do things without
Oh,
thinking
many
about it,
times.
right? You
Many
walk
times.
into a room. Why did I come in here? Here's an interesting thought, and maybe someone's already found an answer to it, whether or not it's true. Um, could you have two consciousnesses, each one thinking the other is the subconsciousness? Maybe it's your left and your right hemisphere. Right now, who I think I am thinking is one of those, thinking the other consciousness is the subconscious, but really the subconscious thinks that it's on top and it's the boss. Maybe they switch.
Well, I mean, in the theory of, I like the multiverse theory myself. I'm a big DC Comics guy, though.
Okay.
So I like the idea that there are an infinite number of universes where minute details and sometimes major things are completely tweaked and different from this one, which I would call Earth One, just because, well, I'm here,
We're
so
number
it
one.
have to be for
But yeah,
one.
and every other universe is calling itself Earth One too. So
No,
an
of course,
infinite
no. We'll
number of
have
times.
wars over that later once we discover each other.
Yeah,
It's an important thing to fight about. It's kind of like
it's
we'll have the wingdings like interdimensional treaty where it doesn't matter anymore because there is no one. There is only airplane skull smiley face.
well, you know that there are an infinite number of universes where Wingdings is the international language, official language,
No, it has to be. This has to be.
and then there
Well,
are
I mean,
different.
if you follow, I have this fun little theory I like to kick around. Okay, I'm gonna spit it out here. So I like to play with the idea that time is circular and that we build ourselves up, all the languages combine, and then we wipe ourselves out eventually, and uh, people people start to repopulate, and then eventually we end up with the same old civilizations that we already have. Just it's our descendants.
Now, is
I
this
like that idea.
how circular? Are you talking about circular as in patterns, or circular as in actually circular? Like we're gonna all disappear. The dinosaurs are gonna come back, and then they're gonna disappear, and then we're gonna come back.
Yeah, I like that idea.
It's
But I read a lot of comics. I'm
um
not saying that I believe that, just so you know. I just think it's an interesting concept, and I would
absolutely.
like that to actually be the truth because it would be
But you
amazing.
wouldn't
Like
you wouldn't
you figure out all of the the mysteries and secrets of life, and then you write it in a dead language that no one's ever going to be able to read. I love that.
and it's interesting because I mean, we like a lot of things do travel in patterns, right? Like the and wavelengths, right? So you've got patterns that go back and forth, up and down. And like everything travels in waves, right? And there's like quantum science behind that and everything. Sound travels in waves, and everything's on different frequencies, right? So now if you look
Ab-
at if you look at let's say politics, right? Politics is in a swing, and it always goes left and then it goes right and then it goes left and then it goes right. You get a lot of people who they start a war and like, oh, there's all these things, we got to go to war, and then you start a war, and then when there's so much war and so many people are dying, people become anti-war and they start going back in the other direction. And it's just like this back forth back like and it almost has a constant timeline to it. And it's kind of like, because of this, history is going to repeat itself. And you know, some of the factors determining that might have to be, I guess, maybe people's memory span.
8 years. That's the best they have.
Well,
People completely forget.
for party support,
16.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
The
funny
guy
how
in the
that
red,
works.
man, he screwed us over so bad last time. Oh, here comes the guy in the blue. 8 years. Oh, hey, let's go to the guy in the red. How
And
about the guy in the red?
that pattern has been so true for like the past, I think, 8 presidents.
Totally.
There were a couple before that that lasted 1 term or 3 terms, but well, I guess one of them was shot, so that doesn't really count. But
You'd be so sad to hear that.
but it's yeah, but it's, so I guess my point is there's patterns to all that, and I think in that way, I mean, hey, everyone's kind of bipolar, right? I mean, it kind of, there's it's a wave, and it's whether, you know, how high and low your amplitude goes is whether or not you're bipolar. Everybody is happy and sad, and then the bipolar disorder is like when you're crazy happy and crazy sad. You've got like a higher amplitude to the wavelength. Maybe it's going faster, but it's all a wave.
Manic depression.
Everything.
Terrible drug. I never recommend it.
Absolutely.
I know people that have it. And to you, I say, keep your head up. Smile a little bit. Give me a call. I'm here for you.
Oh, sorry. I'm behind. There's a lag too. Let's see. Matt Coney says Hunter is the shit. Absolutely. See, I can agree with Matt on some stuff. I'm just reading some of these comments in here to see what we've got. There was, when I was trying to figure out Terrence McKenna's name, Desiree was yelling it out and saying, duh, hello. Like,
of course.
That was probably the Facebook lag. They say, don't look in the mirror when you're tripping. I totally have. It was therapeutic. I forgave myself for quite a few things. Too bad there's been more piled on since. Yeah, it's what am I trying to say?
What are you trying to say, Dan?
One of the things that I think a lot of people are missing out on is I think it's almost human nature as kind of a defense mechanism, because, you know, we have all these defense mechanisms built in, to assume that you're right and everybody else is wrong. And when you're having a discussion about, see, I've never had, and I'd love to have a discussion with somebody where you can actually say, you know, I overreacted to this, you overreacted to that, but let's take the pros and cons of what we actually did say and come up with something constructive out of this discussion that we were having. Because ultimately, and especially like when you're talking politics, people get extremely defensive. Like, I can say something like, well, yeah, Trump did this thing and it wasn't that great, and all the Trump supporters are immediately going to get defensive and defend, you know, everything he did, because that's kind of the political climate we're in. You know, whether they assume that, oh, well, this is about to get worse. If I don't stand up for him now, he's gonna go full anti-Trump and start saying all this stuff about Trump. So I have to immediately get defensive. And we do the same thing personally, right? Like, I've seen people get into fights over, like, you know, one person bumps into another person on the bus, and they're like, oh, they want to start a fight over it, and, you know, one person's like, you bumped into me, and the other person's like, no, I didn't. Instead of like acknowledging, like, oh, if I did, I'm sorry, right? It becomes into like both sides get like super defensive about it, and
Of course.
It's almost like they people do things and they don't understand why they're doing things. They just get into the habit of just doing them. Maybe that's kind of the same thing I was talking about, you know, where where we don't study ourselves and why we do the things that we do. What were you gonna say?
Oh, well, I was just going to say, it just comes back to tunnel vision. There are so many stressors in life that keep people focused on what's immediately in front of them, and I really feel like that's by design. You ever hit the highway and it's bottlenecked, and you wait 35 minutes. You're on your way to work, beginning of your day. 35 minutes. There's no one working. They've got three perfectly good lanes that could be open, but by God, they've got the cones set up so that it just has to eat at you a little bit more. And I feel like there is a major financial benefit to keeping people stressed out. Because for one thing, stressed people spend money. Boy, do stressed people love to spend money. They love to spend their money. Why save it? Got to spend it. Keeping people stressed is essential to
Right.
government, because, oh, well, I just don't even know how I can handle this right now. Please, government, could you please figure out how I can give this letter to somebody?
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting thought. We especially, a lot of people have the opinion that we're not free if we don't have jobs because we want jobs, which I don't entirely agree with, because I think a lot of us have jobs because we want to exchange for others so we can collect a, an amount of money that allows us to buy luxuries. But there are plenty of people who do work just to get by, and
Absolutely. You're
when you
looking at one.
and when you have to work to get by, it is like you're being forced to work. And especially when you know even if you, like, there's no way out of it. Like, you can't just go get some land and build your own property if you wanted to. Now, obviously that's not the ideal way of life, and we all like to live better than just camping. But the fact that no, I'm not doing cocaine over here. um, I just got itchy nose from the dog hair.
It happens. Dander is the
When
major problem.
Yeah. um, so while we're talking about drugs, so yeah, but I think there is, there's that concept of, like our I had teachers that did that to us in school, that gave us busy work just to keep us busy. There was no value to it. It wasn't, we didn't learn anything from it. It was just to keep us, like, in the habit of doing work so that they could probably have some peace and quiet, and do whatever they were doing. Of course, now they're probably just like on Facebook tweeting like, "Oh my God, these damn kids! I can't stand it."
I've read some of those those messages, so yes, I'm gonna have to agree with you on that.
So yeah, but I think that's really interesting.
I think that's another thing that is designed to stunt the growth of people, both intellectually and spiritually, maybe even emotionally. Who knows? The way I see it is, from the time a kid is born, and I say this just from having seen kids. I have no children of my own. I'm trying, believe me, I'm trying. Um, but you still have to do that the old-fashioned way. Anyway, so let me collect myself. From the time a child is born, they want to be you, and they want to do everything that you can do. They want to know everything that you can know. They are little sponges. They want to wrap their heads around the world. You know what I mean? And really just, they're very curious. And, they get about 5, 6 years old, and you start sending them off to a box. 10 hours a day in a box. What a great deal. 10 hours
Yeah.
counting extracurriculars and nonsense like that. And all of a sudden, that curiosity just sort of fizzles out in just a good number of them. And it's sad. It's really
and
sad,
and
because,
this is, sorry, go ahead.
no, there's so much potential in between these two ears if you just nurture it. And I'm not talking about like pump them full of propaganda. Teach them to ask questions. Because
Right.
good God, there is a major critical thinking deficit in the world today. And so much of that, I think, has come from lackluster education and people who stomp out or snuff out rather that curiosity in kids. When I was a kid, like I was bored at school. I would go home and read because I've always been a very curious person. You know, I want to know how things work.
Yeah, it's I can't remember who said this, but they said that kids are naturally curious, and they start asking why everything. And a lot of parents get frustrated because they're in that tunnel vision of, and then you've got this little thing chirping off to the side, why what, asking questions. And you have some parents, and people react differently to this. Some parents, they make up fake answers because they don't know the real answers, and then the kids start thinking everything's a joke, which is, it seems like fun and games, but at the same time, you're preventing, in my opinion, you're preventing that child from, and don't get me wrong, like there should be an opportunity for kids to have fun, but I think, especially when they're serious questions, um, like if you don't know the answer, you should teach them to go look it up, especially now in the age of the internet, right? Um,
Absolutely.
and and
I
so and so somebody said, and I can't remember who said this, but they said, so kids have this, natural curiosity, and they ask, why a million times until you beat the why out of them, and then they start asking questions, or so then they stop asking questions, and now it's like they just learn what they're taught. And so you'll see this huge disconnect if you look at the people who are wildly successful in life, and I'm talking about, like, they go far, they make a lot of money, they, all this stuff. Most of them are they didn't get far in school, and that's because they refuse to just memorize and regurgitate. What they're doing is they're saying, I have a natural curiosity to learn things, and I want to spend my time learning the things that I want to learn. Um, and
absolutely.
and you see this like all over the place. Like, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates were college dropouts. They wanted to learn how to make computers work. What's his name? The Tesla guy.
Elon
Elon
Musk.
Elon Musk. Um, it's same thing. He wants to learn about space. Like he built this multi-billion-dollar finance company, and then he took all these millions of dollars that he made off of that, and he said, I want to learn space. And so now that's what he's doing, and he's paying people to do other research for him who are interested in asking the same questions. Um, and this is how you really go far. It's not this bullshit about going. And don't get me wrong. You go to school and you do learn some valuable information, even in public school. Um,
Absolutely.
those are the crumbs. Those are the crumbs that are necessary for you to function in the industrial workplace where they want you to work on the tunnel vision. But
Most definitely.
but and they can be seeds for other things. But at the same time, a lot of it's useless, and a lot of it is, you want to go off on a tangent and learn, oh, I like this math and science, I want to learn this part of it, and they tell you, no, this is what we're learning today. And you're learning from people who don't know, who don't understand it. They just tell you to read the book and answer the questions. So when you have those questions, why this, why that, and you can't, I don't know what they do now. Like, can you go, can you be on your tablet all day in class? I guess some schools are probably more like that now, but you can't go ask people who know these answers because you're kind of stuck listening to one teacher. So I think there's a lot to be said about that.
Yeah, it's just something's got to be done. Sorry about that.
Sad and true.
Just a little bit.
That's what Desiree says.
Something
Sad and
has
true.
to be done. People. Another big problem I have is homework. My God, like you can't accomplish something in an 8-hour, span to where you have to soak up 3-4 hours of a poor kid's time. I mean, my God, some of them, it's hard enough to get to see your parents as is.
Right.
Here
Or
I am
play
talking
video
about
games.
kids.
Which and I have to say this because like a lot of these nerdy kids that sit home and play video games, and I was one of them for some period.
Oh, I understand.
Those games are not. I mean, depending on which games you play, they're not entirely stupid. They actually do, especially like when you get into like puzzle games and problem solving games.
Hmm.
Man, I've so if you've ever had a roommate who's always like, there's no room in the fridge, right? Like and then you could just come along and say, oh well, if you move this over here, and it's
Yep.
kind of like playing Tetris, right? No, if you just
My one
organize
of
the
my
bricks right,
favorite
everything.
games of all time.
and so and so it's like playing these games really does teach you a lot of things. Um, Now, arguably, like Mario Kart isn't gonna. It's not really a puzzle game, but Legend of Zelda might, right? And I
Thank
don't.
you. I was hoping you were going to bring it up. Shout out to Ocarina of Time. I spent many, many days laid up at my grandma's house trying to calling horses with my on my ocarina.
Yeah, it's really there are games that will make you smarter, and it's if you think about it, there have been a lot of applications where they try to take the more learning approach to games, where they're more educational than they are games. There's both sides to it. But I think at the end of the day, it's really the same thing. It's people asking questions. Why? What happens if I do this? What happens if I go here? Asking questions like on a mission for knowledge on their own. And what's really interesting, I think, about psychedelics is when you start getting out of touch with that, I think it kind of brings you back to that. What do you think?
Oh no, definitely. It takes all these ridiculous things that we've built up in our, to form this ego that we currently sit with, and it strips that away, to sort of give you a chance to really examine something from what is now an outside perspective. You don't know how to be a kid anymore. My God, you just get
Right.
little glimpses into childhood. Man, we got ripped off.
Right. Man, that's deep, man. And
Well,
so what's
and
interesting? Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and that's funny because I'm so incredibly shallow.
um, I mean, shit. Now I forgot what I was gonna
Mission accomplished.
say. um, yeah. So I was gonna say something about. Well, I think I was gonna come back around to this. How there are all these. We mostly think of psychedelics as, you know, how we see them in the movie. You're gonna take them. You're gonna see like crazy things, and it's gonna be a trip, and woo, like your eyes are gonna get all dilated, and it's gonna be a party. Um, which for those who may or may not have experienced that, will tell you that's not necessarily a bad thing. But um, I think it's kind of like it's kind of different a different side to it, right? Like it's like
Well, they
there's that.
advertise it like it's walking into a haunted house that's gonna pop back up on you for years. I mean, if you're one of those DEA agents that busts into an LSD factory and gets like a whole sheet's worth on your arm, yeah, you're gonna have a bad time for a long time, my friend. So you should stop breaking into those places that you're not invited into, busting up those chemical factories, at least without the proper equipment. I mean, come on, know a little something about what you're
Long
working with
sleeve
here.
shirts at least.
Yeah, hey, you know, Grateful Dead tie dyes, just pregame.
Man, yeah. So that's interesting, man. Well, let's see here. We're coming up on an hour. But I mean, this is a pretty interesting conversation. But I don't know if I've got much more to say about psychedelics.
I understand.
I'm gonna
I'm
have
not
to.
sure there's much more I can say about psychedelics.
I can neither confirm nor deny the allegations.
I knew a guy who knew a guy that once passed a guy in passing.
Um. Oh, I
Got
did
time for
want to.
some plugs? Go ahead.
I did want to. Oh, we do have time for some plugs. Those aren't hair plugs, are they?
Oh no, they're real.
Yeah. What do you want to plug?
Oh, I wanted to take a little time to plug some candidates, man.
Oh, absolutely.
You
Who you
know,
got?
they need all the help they can get. These people. First of all, let's start. Uh, and boy, he owes me a meal. I want to plug Mark Tippett. First of all, poor old Mark Tippett. He's out there. You have to excuse the noise. There's somebody running up and down my road. Such is the cost of doing business outside. Uh, I'd like to plug Mark Tippett. You know, Mark Tippett is he's on the ballot for our gubernatorial election. Yes, Mark Tippett, libertarian candidate for governor.
Of
Uh, and they still,
Texas.
big surprise to everyone, I'm sure, they have chosen to exclude him from any debates. And I think that's a little crazy. But, you know, what do you expect from Greg Abbott, the guy who's bringing in all the Californians and then saying, help me, a blue wave. Oh, that
Yep.
guy. I hate that guy. I don't hate a lot of people. Greg Abbott, I hate you, buddy. Just know it. Now you know. You got to know I troll you just about every day. Anyway, Mark Tippett, he deserves to be in the debates. I believe that we are still suing the state of Texas. Correct me if I'm wrong. Someone in the comment section will surely know and can link to information because I am less plugged in as some of you, I imagine.
If you have
I
that link,
also
post
would,
it.
huh?
If you have the link, post it. I'm
Yes,
just
please. Post links for all of these things that I'm about to say if you feel like it. I want to plug a good friend of mine, Desiree Lindsay, is running for Congress in Congressional District 25. And, you know, if you're in that district, you vote for her, you crazy people. Come on. What's the matter with you? She's great. I love her. I'd also like to plug a good friend of mine. His name is Matt Savino. Matt Savino is running in House District 10. And if you don't know Matt Savino, he's a hard worker. Love that guy as well. Let's see. Moving on down the line. I'd like to mention a good, of course, preface this by saying I am a member of the Audacious Caucus of the Libertarian Party. I'm a very proud member of the Audacious Caucus, and in that membership, I have come to know several amazing people, quite a few from Michigan actually, and that's what I want to talk to you about now. If you are in Michigan, and God knows you got nothing else to do, right? You should you should go out and you should check out Brian Ellison. Okay, he's running for Congress, and boy, he's got some tricks up his sleeve. Check him out. Brian Ellison running for Congress in Congressional District 8, which I guess that's the 8th one. So be on the lookout for that. He's also he's got a website that I would hate to butcher, so please someone post in the comments as well. Jill Galvin, oh yes, and I love you, Jill. If you're watching, just know I love you. She is running in House District 18A in Minnesota. So my Minnesota friends, and I'm sure I've got some other than Jill and Ralph, and I love you, Ralph. Anyway, go out, vote for her. Also, you mentioned him earlier, the great Chairman Meow himself, Matt Keenel, is running in House District 22. Get out there and show him some love, you crazy libertarian commie bastards. Okay, Ben Drake, also Benjamin Drake, another good friend of mine. I was fortunate to get to meet at the national convention. He is running in House District 36. Show him some love. That's also in Michigan, not Minnesota like Jill. Vote for Jill. And then last, most certainly not least, because my God, the man who needs no introduction is about to get one. James Weeks, running in Livingston County for Livingston County Commissioner, D7. If you are interested Well, first of all, if you're in Livingston County and you're interested, I believe it's he's running on a give Livingston County strippers platform, and I wholeheartedly support that. So you should too. Get
Give,
out there, show
give.
them
Wait,
some
wait, wait.
love.
Say that one more time. It's a what?
It is a pro Livingston County. Like, we need strippers. They need strip clubs in Livingston
Ah,
County
okay.
because they're banned. I believe is
Oh,
I could be wrong.
well, hey, I mean, like they say, pro. So, well, I got to ask this because we know prohibition creates black markets. Do they have speakeasies?
That's a good question.
That's
Uh,
good. We need to bring back the speakeasy actually, and that would be a great place to do
I like speakeasies because they're underground, so it's harder to like run out on a tab.
it. That is true. All right, who else you got?
I mean, let's think. Anyone else? Sean Jones. Sean Jones is running for Congress. I love you, Sean Jones, and you better win. You better win because I got money on it. Sean Jones is running for Congress. Anybody else? I can't see any of the comments or anything because I'm doing this all from my phone. If I missed you, I love you. Oh, I wanted to shout out Patrick Smith too because he's a
Hmm.
big, lovable teddy bear, and you should give him a hug. If you ever see him in public, give him a big hug. He'd sure appreciate it. Tell him it's from me.
He is, and actually, that reminds me. He's got one of
Corey
my big.
Watkins.
Oh yeah.
Damn, I cannot
How
believe I
could you?
forgot Corey Watkins.
How could
Corey
you?
Watkins.
Because it
Quick
goes without
little
saying.
shout out here to Corey Watkins and the entire cannabis open carry walk movement. They're doing amazing things. Three billboards in the state of Texas. That's amazing. That's amazing. They keep working hard. Corey's a hell of an activist, hell of a guy, and I like him. I'd have his babies if it were possible. It's not, sadly. Um,
It might be. I mean,
Man, I'm sorry,
just,
Corey. I almost forgot you, and that's so messed up of me.
they're always advancing science. They've got some crazy stuff going on, man. You might be able to do that. You might be
One
able to pull
day.
that off. It's only the billionaires can afford it now.
Well,
So
I'm sure they'll
the price will
they'll
come
use the
down over the next couple of years, I think.
absolutely. Man, Dan, thanks for having me on, man. This was great.
Yeah, this was absolutely. Thanks for coming in, and we will do this again. I guarantee you.
Oh, I
And
hope so.
you're going to
All right.
the Canifest.
Yeah, I'm gonna do my damnedest to be there.
Will we? I don't know how that would work. Can we do a group live stream with like 20 of us? Is it just going to be way too chaotic? That might be
I
fun.
mean, I think we could do it. Given that it's Canifest, I'm not entirely sure how useful I will be, but I will try to be useful.
You might surprise yourself.
I do
We
it so often now, it's not even surprising.
we might. This is how it might work. We live stream from my phone, and then we just pass it around, and everyone just throws in their gets like 5 minutes of talking about whatever
That
the hell they
that
feel like.
works. We
That
got to
could
be
be
really
fun.
delicate about how we hand it off, though, because my grandmother would always say, now, JC, you're making everybody drunk. Moving the camera around.
Oh man. Yep, I could see that.
Now, I believe there's a couple of words I'm supposed to say. Is that
What
is
is
that correct?
taxation?
It's theft.
Damn right it is. TM. All right, man. It has been great, and we will see you again. And thank you everybody for watching. And big shout out to the man JC, founder of the Wingdings Caucus. Um, let's make that Wingdings dream a reality. Save the party.
Bottom unity.
All
Another
right,
shameless
guys.